Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our on demand webinar. Today, we'll discuss Modernized journey to a smart hospital, what every C level manager should know before developing an IoT and digital strategy. Our speaker for today is Kapil Asher. As a head of healthcare practice, Kapil works with hospitals in solving challenges related to improving patient care while optimizing use of capital and operational resources. He has dedicated over 10 years of his career in healthcare IoT, gaining expertise in sensor technology, network architecture, workflow optimization, and user experience. So, with that brief introduction, I'd like to hand the mic over to Kapil, who will walk you through today's agenda and the rest of the topic.
Thanks, Aneta. Hope the listener of this on-demand webinar is doing well. I'm excited to present to you the view of healthcare IoT world through my lens today. Okay, so let's quickly go through the agenda. It's going to be roughly about 30 minutes of a webinar. So first, we begin with the current landscape of healthcare IoT market and talk about some gaps in the industry. Then we talk about some key issues hospitals are facing in achieving ROI from current legacy solutions. Then in the next two sessions, I will walk you through the Kontakt.io approach and how we are disrupting the old ways of doing things and have created frictionless IoT for this market, along with an overview of our key solution domains. Then I will show you some highlights of our application, just a little sneak preview, and end today's session with where you, as a healthcare leader, can start to think about IoT in your facility. So we'll keep it short and crisp. All right. So let's begin with looking at current landscape of IoT in healthcare, particularly in the North American market. So overall, IoT and RTLS have been around for almost 2 decades. Uh, for almost 2 decades, with at least 10 big vendors in the industry offering solutions built over a few different technology stacks and at various price points. However, when you look at the 5,000 odd hospitals in US, roughly only 30% have implemented RTLS within their facilities, and even smaller number of hospitals are utilizing it for beyond a single use case. So 30% are have adopted it, and a fewer number of them are using it only for one single use case, which is quite astonishing. From a high tech industry standard, this level of adoption is unusual, especially in the B2B market. So let's peel back the onion to find out why. Okay, so historically, healthcare IoT has been really fragmented. So each vendor came up with their own network to communicate with location sensors. And so we have a forest of disparate networks, like we have the LoRaWAN, we have 900 megahertz, 13 megahertz, ultra wideband, passive RFID. It's just a mess of different protocols. These systems cannot communicate with each other. So the sensor from one system cannot communicate with the infrastructure of the other system without requiring a maze of data pipes and expensive integrations. So, of course, siloed behavior causes monopolism and eventually lacks innovation, cost competitiveness, and overall stunts the industry growth. So, if you look in the market, some of our competitors are still using the same devices they launched during their founding years and are still using the same kind of software solutions from 10 years ago. These archaic systems are hard to manage and require specific skills for deployment and are also hard to manage on an ongoing basis because of cumbersome on-site servers, frequent battery management, hard to swiftly manage layout changes because let's face it, construction in hospitals is very rapid and happens very often. So it's hard to reconstruct one zone with these hardwired devices. And all of this leads to high costs and a long time to value. So naturally, only a fraction of the market is able to spend the financial and human resources to implement and support a system, leaving out a significant portion of the market unserved. So the question is, have the 30% gained any value? And the answer is a most likely no, right? So why is that? Let's go through that line by line. So first, there is heavy capex investment, like I said, that is needed to get the project off the ground, putting a significant financial pressure on the project to begin with, even before any benefit has been realized. Then it takes about 9 to 12 months of deployment time before any benefit can be recorded. So increasing time to value. Usually, such long project timelines tend to allow teams to figure out alternative methods of solving the problem, making RTLS redundant or less crucial, right? So, if you give humans it's so much time to kind of figure out what else they can do to solve their problem, they will find a solution. And then RTLS just becomes a redundance at that point. After go live, frequent maintenance needs, including server upkeep, battery refresh, makes it hard for hospitals to keep up with the system, often leading to a subpar performance and eventual abandonment. I've also seen issues, operational issues, where there is lack of buy-in from end users. The workflows are not correctly defined. The end users don't know why they are getting a system like this, and they don't have the right training of using it in the appropriate manner. And finally, expectation of technology performance is not met in reality. So location accuracy may be subpar, or the software is not providing the correct functionality that was promised. They don't have the right reports that can be useful for the system. All of this leads to a subpar performance for these hospitals who spend millions of dollars in going through an RTLS cycle. So it's 2022, and we need something simple, affordable, accessible that just works, right? And that's where Kontakt.io comes in. So Kontakt.io, we are an end-to-end IoT platform that provides solution describing the real-time situations of care environments, connecting location devices and sensors to applications that drive new digital services. So I know those are very fancy words, and I'll of course break it down in the next few slides to show you what we are really about. But we are on a mission to driving safety and positive clinical outcomes by operating a truly smart hospital driven by modern technology built over AI and machine learning. Our key values here, and which I'll go much deeper into, it's that we leverage open standard protocols that are highly scalable, not only into use cases provided by us, but also to use cases provided by third parties. We have the shortest time to value, which means we can deploy a 100-bed hospital from concept to go live in less than 3 to 4 weeks. I've been in this industry for 10 plus years. As Aneda said, I've never seen deployments go so swiftly. So this is really impressive from a technology standpoint. We have the most critical element of healthcare IoT, which is achieving room level accuracy at nearly one third the cost of any leading provides players that provide the same level of functionality. All right, so how are we disrupting the market? So we disrupt the market with three simple principles. First, we're creating use case centric solutions. So by that I mean we are developing prepackaged solutions which are use case centric but not point solutions. And by that I mean that we provide purpose built solutions developed on open standards for a single use case without pigeonholing our users and not allowing them room for expansion into other use cases. So think of it as a Lego building block puzzle, right? So you start with a piece which gives you one functionality or one structure, and then you build on top of that, giving you the other structure, and it keeps going on and on until you have the final design of the puzzle, right? So, which means we can scale from the smallest of use cases like loss prevention of telepacks in laundry chutes or trash bays, all the way to full-fledged workflows automation that improves clinical outcomes on multiple facets and not just a single facet like assets or staff. We are truly turnkey with no major involvement from IT or facilities management in heavy lifting or support infrastructure. So this includes our own hardware components, sensors, as well as the location engine, business rules, end user software UI, all hosted on the cloud. But bear in mind, turnkey does not mean a closed ecosystem. In fact, quite the contrary. We leverage open standard protocols, allowing us to incorporate sensors and tags from other vendors within our platform. So while we address more than 85 use cases with our turnkey solutions, we can include a niche requirement that may be served better by a third party sensor. So it gives you a lot of flexibility and room to grow in the future. All right. So to explain our open architecture, I wanted to just highlight this architectural diagram. So if you see on the left, we have all our sensors, our patient tags, our location tags, asset tags, and our room sensors, which provide the room level accuracy. They all communicate over BLE, the Bluetooth Low Energy, to gateways which are either provided by your wireless access points. So if you have the right combination of wireless access points which are BLE enabled, you do not need any other infrastructure except our tags and room sensors. And these wireless access points carry the BLE data all the way to our cloud applications. But for some reason, if your hospital is not enabled with the latest and greatest Wi-Fi, and you are not on the time horizon of refreshing it anytime soon, we provide our own little gateways. These are these plug-in gateways called portal lights, which can do the same functionality, which can kind of scan BLE data around it and then send that data up to the cloud. And the way we design these plug-in gateways is we made it pass through. So when you plug that device into a wall socket, you don't lose that socket. You can plug anything else that's rated 110 volt into that device without any loss of functionality. And from there on, all the data that goes up to the cloud, our cloud does the massaging and the data aggregation from multiple sensors, applies the AI and ML algorithms on top of that, and contextualizes that data to send it to end user applications, which may be developed by us or by other third party vendors, right? So this simple architecture gives a lot of flexibility to our health systems to start small, grow up, start at a grown scale. There's a lot of openness in how we can start working together. All right, so let's talk about BLE. Why did we select BLE as our base protocol for all our sensors? So think about it. BLE is in pretty much any consumer electronics goods you can think of. About 6.5 billion uh, electronics goods in 2022 are going to have BLE in it. So think about the massive scale of adoption it has achieved over the years. None of our competitors are selling as much devices to achieve that levels of scale, right? So BLE attracts a lot of R&D money. There's a lot of performance benefits that have been achieved over the years. The economies of scale allow battery management in a better way. They allow for much cheaper chipsets that can be put into other devices. So what that does is helps us sell IoT as a platform instead of selling it as a hardware plus a tail end of an OpEx, right? So we can operationalize our platform, which includes everything from hardware, from services, from the software. So you can retain your very precious CapEx budget for revenue generating activities like buying an MRI machine or buying that surgical tool you've been eyeing for a while to add to your elective procedures, right? And you can move this RTLS IoT system into more of a department level operational budget, which can be either coming from a biomed department or the nursing department, or you can even spread it across a couple of departments to fund this program. In addition, we are not only just providing you with the hardware and software, we are also acting as a consultative partner with our health systems to make sure that you are set up for success right off the gate, right? So our five-step approach, uh, we've come up with a five-step approach which sets you up for that success. And I'll walk you through them one by one right now. So first, build correlation and identify needs. The big question to ask yourself is, why are we doing this? Is there clearly identified need that is driving inefficiency that cost dollars downstream? If so, does IoT help solve those inefficiencies? Which department does it affect, and who else can be benefited out of it? So these are really important questions to ask yourself, to ask team members on your team, to ask leaders if this is really something that they want to go through from a change perspective. Second, measure twice and cut once, right? So develop a strategy that can scale and that does not simply turn into a point solution that cannot be expanded into the future. So define core technologies that become the backbone of the platform, such as Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. These are open standards. Every hospital in the world has Wi-Fi backbone built in, right? They don't need to go and buy a new Wi-Fi system. The tech should be selected that such that it has a time horizon of the next at least 5 years, if not more than that, 4 to 8 years. Third, avoid monopolizing and selecting technologies that have long and cumbersome deployment timelines. So figure out ongoing maintenance needs. Does this system require an additional FTE simply to maintain? How is the day-to-day life of the users going to change? These are all important questions to ask during selection process. Fourth, start small, and by that I don't mean just start with a small pilot. Select an actual problem, let's say loss prevention or staff duress in the emergency department, and implement the system to fully address that need. Because unless you fully address a need and solve a problem, even if it's a small problem, you would never start realizing the gains out of the system. So when users actually start using the system in their daily capacity, you can learn a lot and you can make tweaks before the enterprise wide rollout. And finally, document all the benefits in hard dollars, measure performance and report and evangelize success to the rest of the system, right? So be loud about it. Talk to your peers, talk to your other leaders in the system, tell them how you've gained the benefit out of an IoT system so that we can talk about expansion in the future. Okay, so let's talk about the key domains in which Kontakt.io dominates, at least in my perspective. We are, like I said, in more than 85 use cases, we solve them. But of course, uh, the next 4 or 5 use cases you will see on the slides are our top sellers, and those are the top challenges that hospitals face on a day-to-day life. So I just wanted to walk you through all of them. The first domain is medical assets. So hospitals have thousands of mobile equipment, IV pumps, wheelchairs, stretchers, specialty beds, SCDs, wound vacs. All of these are scattered all over the hospital in various capacities, right? So when nurses need something to treat a patient, their natural sense is to just scramble around and go look for equipment. Even if you have a process like equipment distribution set up, it's manual. You need to go and send support staff for rounding, looking into soil equipment closets, looking into clean closets, and only if they find something, they bring it back to the nurses when things are ordered, right? So by providing an visibility of all your assets on a map, it just makes it very easy and very efficient to go search for equipment when one is needed. Think of Biomed. Biomed have to go through at least one PM cycle per device in a given year. And when they're looking at a screen of thousands of IV pumps that are due PM in the next month, they're scratching their heads trying to figure out where to find them. So we are improving their efficiency, helping them get to that 100% preventative maintenance right off the gate. Then finally, we are also helping with utilization, right? So if an IV pump is tucked away in a closet and not being used for eight hours, 16 hours, it's underutilized equipment at that point. And while someone else on the other side of the hospital needs an IV pump and they don't have one, right? So how do we balance that utilization, which is currently at 35% on a hospital average standards? But by improving the workflows of the distribution, using the technology of RTLS visibility, we can increase the utilization by at least 20%, if not more. By increasing utilization, you can decrease over procurement. You don't need any buffer quantities to satisfy the nurse's needs. You can reduce your short-term rentals when the census is high. And all of this leads to hard dollar ROI savings, right? So the second thing, which is a very useful use case when we talk about medical assets, is loss prevention. So think of small telepacks, wireless heart rate monitors. They get wrapped up in linens, soiled clothes. These cost about $4,000 or $5,000 each, and you just lose it without any notice. So we are helping hospitals stop those from going out the door. We have local alarms that we can either buzz or flash a light, and we can also send a soft alert to the department owner via text or email or even a push notification on their phone that one of their equipments was found in the laundry dock door, so they can quickly go and retrieve it. So the way we are enabling these use cases via our own superior tag technology, our tags have one of the highest battery lives I have ever seen in my 10 years tenure over here in RTLS. We have an average of 6 years of battery life on our tags. They have BLE plus IR sensing on it, and I'll talk about IR in a second. But the combination of BLE and IR provides room level accuracy for these tags. They do have two programmable buttons, so you can use them for triggering any sort of workflow you may think of. So maybe you press the blue button to alert that biomed needs to come and repair one piece of equipment, or you can use the red one to alert EVS that there's a significantly contaminated piece of equipment which needs deep cleaning from them, right? So you can do that without picking up a phone and calling the right department to address it. We can automate the button pushes all the way to the end user that needs to see it. We are IP65, they're ultrasonically sealed, so they can be cleaned with alcohol wipes, bleaches, sprays, and it wouldn't affect the electronics. Okay, the next use case I'm going to talk about is employee safety. So even before pandemic, and this is a topic very close to my heart, and I feel really sorry and that it comes to this situation. But even before pandemic, 1 out of 4 nurses were assaulted, were physically abused. Um, Anytime in their career, right? And that has significantly ramped up after the pandemic. So we are on calls with hospitals discussing employee safety almost on a daily basis in our sales team. So how are we solving this challenge, right? So we are providing wearables. You can see a little snapshot of that wearable over here with two programmable buttons again, and those can be triggered to either alert other peers on the nurse's unit, or you can even alert directly to security. We're also connected to PSAP machines in case you are in a critical access health where there is no on-site security, and the best thing you can do is to call the local police. And we are improving the response time for all these threats that the nurses are facing, right? All of this is software defined, all of this is hosted on the cloud, and all you need to do is kind of have the nurses wear the wearables and set up your infrastructure so that the panic alarm buttons can be escalated to the right responder. Not only that, we can also provide 100% room level accuracy with where the nurses are, because sometimes what happens is the threat begins in one room, but it could prolong into other rooms down the hall, right? So in real time, you need to know where the location of that situation is, and that's what we provide with our location accuracy engine. And then the other part of employee safety, and I think this is more driven by regulations more than the employee safety aspect of it, is hand sanitization. So we are helping with recognizing and identifying opportunities of hand washing, which are laid out by Joint Commission and Leapfrog organizations. And then we are recognizing when a hand washing event happens. So the proximity of the dispenser with the badge and when the dispenser was dispensed, we are capturing all of that. And we're kind of creating an algorithm to show if an opportunity was missed or not, right? So we can do the tracking of the hand washing compliance all the way from a department level to that individual level. So depending on how comfortable your hospital feels about tracking individual hand washing events, we can do it at the department level just to show the departments are doing, one department is doing better than the other, or we can track it all the way down to the individual who is compliant or not. Okay, the third major use case is patient satisfaction. So think about ambulatory services, ORs, EDs, where there's a short stay of patient, but they have to go through a waiting area, then an examination room, then a discharge, and finally exit from the facility. Um, we need to identify the bottlenecks of where waiting times are increasing. Why is the provider not attending to the patient in a timely manner? So we help with analyzing all of that workflow inefficiencies by providing real-time location data on the patients and the staff members. So we have shown that there is an improvement in patient intake capacity by 20%. We can reduce wait times by almost 50% and increase the room utilization of your clinic or your ED by simply tracking and identifying where the bottlenecks are, right? So the way it works is as the patient comes in, we give them one of our patient badge, which I'll talk about in a second. And from there on, the timer begins and starts tracking the location of the patient across the whole clinic or the ED, showing you the time spent in every phase of care. Now, if you see that there is a certain shift that has more wait times, there's a certain day of the week or month of the year that shows high census or high wait times, then you can make an evidence-based decision to add more resources to reduce that wait time. So maybe you want to hire more nurses or providers or even some people at the registration desk to speed up the process. On the flip side, if you see that you have very low utilization of rooms on certain times of the year, then you can increase your patient intake. You can add that two or three more patient appointments for those times so that you don't leave revenue on the table, right? Because you have so much capacity or so much unused capacity, there is room for adding more patient intakes and during those times and kind of adding to the top line revenue. The second thing we are doing with improving patient satisfaction is digital interactions between the patient and the health system, right? So think about your MyChart app when you have your appointment ready, but you don't know where your doctor's office is. We are providing digital indoor navigation, turn by turn navigation using our wayfinding beacons so that the patient can get to their doctor's office to their appointment on time. So missed appointments is one big metric that the healthcare industry is measuring. We are helping them reduce their missed appointments by significant percentage. And finally, we are doing things like digital interactive whiteboard integration. So when you are in a long-term care, you're in an acute care, we have digital whiteboards on a TV that we are powering automatically, right? So it displays the not only the weather outside, but weather inside the room. What's the temperature? What's the humidity? What's the air quality? We even flash the pictures of the care team when they come in and out so that the patient is more reduces their anxiety and know exactly who they're dealing with when the patients when the providers come in and out, right? So this is just consume just adding a little bit of a consumer flavor to the patient experience, which is where the trend of the healthcare industry is going towards. Now, like I said, we enable that with our own BLE tag. This is a disposable tag. We have both reusable as well as a disposable tag, but disposable is getting more popular these days because the staff members do not want to deal with reprocessing the tag after every patient use, cleaning them, making sure they are decommissioned from the software, commissioned to another patient in the software. So we just created this disposable tag, which patients are free to take with them. They have an average life cycle of about 2 months, so which is more than sufficient for short stays. And they are built over silver oxide batteries, so there is no lithium ion in them. You can simply throw that in garbage or recycling bin. They are IP65, so the patients can, it's waterproof. So if the patients have to shower with them on, they won't affect the electronics inside. So finally, I want to talk about our use case with regards to environmental monitoring. So environmental monitoring has become really popular with optimizing energy consumption in hospitals. So we drive this use case using our portal beam device. It's a ceiling device that can do sense temperature, humidity, air quality index, carbon monoxide, air pressure, light, motion, and human occupancy. So the way it finds out whether a human is occupying a room or not is by thermally scanning the room. So because we emit more heat than the ambient temperature, that's how it knows that there is a person involved in the room or not. And it not only can tell you whether the room is occupied or not, but it also counts the number of people inside the room. Uh, on top of that, this is also a IR beacon and a BLE beacon. So it floods the entire room with infrared. And if you remember, I was talking about the asset tag and the staff tag having an IR sensor. When these tags come inside the room, they sense the IR from the portal beam, and that IR is uniquely identifying that room. And because IR cannot penetrate through walls, the location of those tags are contained within the four walls of that room. And that's how we achieve room level. But coming back to the environmental monitoring features of this device, we are sending the environmental physical attributes of a space to the building management system. So if a room is idle, there is no one occupying the room. There is no need for the HVAC to be on or the air conditioning to be on. So they can make a decision to cut off the climate controllers in that room and save on energy consumption for that space, right? So multiply that by, I don't know, 1,000 rooms, and that's a significant chunk of energy that you can save on a monthly basis. All right, so let me show you some application highlights now. So, Annette, I'll have to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, screen, sorry. Okay. All right, so just a quick demo of our solution. We are web-based solution, so we just need a web browser on any device you can think of, a laptop, an iPad, an Android device, iOS device. As long as it can get to the internet, we can log a user in to our software. And we are roles based. So depending on what role you get assigned, the landing page would look completely different for you. So administrative users would obviously have rights to go change settings within the software, whereas a basic user would just be maybe looking at a map or a list view to search for equipment. So let's see how you can find equipment in our software. So you would just go into the floor you're looking at. You would say, I just want to find IV pumps. Um, so I can just type IV and it just displays the list of 5 IV pumps on this floor. When I click on one of the icons, I can go into more information and it shows more attributes about that asset. And all of these attributes are completely configurable. So we can pull them from your CMMS systems. You can define attributes that are not part of your CMMS systems. All of that can be completely configured on the fly. And we can even add a picture so new employees can know what they're looking for if they haven't been around for a long time. Then, searchability, we can use a lot of advanced filters in what you're looking for. So let's say you're looking for equipment that has a PM date, preventative maintenance date, which is due for this month. You can filter down and look for just those devices that are due for this month. So it'll reduce your search list by a significant amount. And from there on, you can navigate to the map to see exactly where that is. The other thing we are doing is asset status. So we are changing statuses automatically based on the location of the devices. So if they are in a patient room, it's in use. If they're in a soiled room, they're dirty. If they're in a clean room, they're available to use. In biomed shop, they're in maintenance. So by changing the asset status automatically, we can run utilization reports. So we can tell exactly one piece of equipment, how much was it utilized in a given period of time. And that helps with making any capital purchase decisions like, do you need more IV pumps or do you have too many? And maybe you can reallocate some to your sister hospital down the street or even sell it in used market and kind of make some revenue out of it, right? So fleet optimization, utilization, all of that can be driven easily with our statuses reports. Then I want to show you a little bit about how we can drive power level management. So if you see our power level dashboard, every clean storage area, every soiled closet can be defined with a min and max number of devices. And if that threshold is not met, even on the higher end or the lower end, we can send a notification for either pickup or restock. So if it's a soil room, there would be a pickup request. If it's a clean room, there would be a restock request. And we can send those requests either by text, email, or even by push notifications on a mobile app. And those notifications would kind of look like this. And these are interactive notifications. So you can actually go in and interact with the notification. You can say, yes, I accept this job. I have restocked this unit and now I'm finishing my job. Or if you want to escalate it to another team member, you can do that on the interactive notifications as well. Now, let me show you a little bit about our patient satisfaction uh, screens. So we have a room board at the registration desk, which gives you the status of every room, whether it's available or which provider, or if there is an alert on that room, right? Maybe it's needs cleaning or there is provider hasn't been there for more than 15 minutes. And that's the threshold you have set between um, will set as an interaction time between provider and patients. All of that will be displayed in a room board. And all of these statuses can also notify the correct exact individual that needs to attend to those statuses, right? So, for example, if this status would change to cleaning needed, then it would send a notification to the EVS staff member to go turn over that room, right? So turnover needed. Then we can drive, like I said, room utilization reports from here. So you can see your clinic on an average period of 30 days or a week, how many of your exam rooms were utilized and how much were they utilized by. So it looks like these were all in red. So it looks like you are pretty good with capacity and you don't have room for increasing patient intake. But if they were more or less 50% more than green, then you know that there is some capacity you are not utilizing correctly and you would add to the patient intake. And then finally, you can look at the cycle time on an average of how your patients are going through different phases of care. How long were they in waiting? How long were they with the provider? Was the discharge fast enough or not? All of this you can use for identifying those bottlenecks I was talking about and changing workflows to improve your efficiency. Then for environmental monitoring, it's a very simplified use case. We can set thresholds for your freezers, for your pharmacy refrigerators, for your ambient surgical tool storage areas. And we can set these thresholds. And if they go out of bounds, then we can notify facilities management to go check what is going on with that area or that piece of equipment. We can also log temperatures. So for joint commission, in case you want to show proof that your refrigerator was always under the bounds of the temperature range, then you can run a report. We collect data every 5 minutes for what the temperature should be. All right, let's get back to the slides. Okay, so if you remember in the beginning of our discussion, I mentioned how we provide turnkey solutions for most use cases, but we identify that there might be some use cases that we don't serve and some other third party is better suited for that. So in that case, our APIs and integrations come into play. So we have created a very out of the box open standards integration protocol using AWS Kinesis, using Azure Event Hubs. So we kind of stream data in a fire hose style for whoever who wants to subscribe and collect that data, right? So of course there's an API key which goes into it, which is our license cost. But once we have the right API key, we can subscribe to that data, ingest that data, and use it for any other applications that we don't provide. We have webhooks event streams, just like Twitter. You can follow one individual. In this case, you would follow one data stream, and you can ingest all that data as needed. We can even support some older ways of data integration, like messaging, sending email, text messages, all of that. And in many cases, that those are highly useful for some older systems. Uh, with more advanced integration, like with EMR, we are using HL7. With CMMS, we are using JSON, XML type integrations, and we are out of the box Active Directory integrated as well. So, using API, I mean, it's all about using data at the end of the day, right? So real time is of course great. You can react to them and react to situations in real time, but you also need to figure out the trend of how your system is doing. Have workflow changes improved your systems or not, right? So using API, WebStream, we are providing data to important ERP systems that track the trends and provide evidence of workflow improvements enabled by IoT. So we are tracking things like average number of duress alerts over a given period of time or over a given shift or department, and average response time it takes to address to those events. So our customers are using this data to make resource decisions to help improve outcomes. Like maybe they want to hire more staff members over a shift or in a single department. And what this does is instead of anecdotal requests from nursing, from other staff members, there's actual data to back up and justify that additional spend, right? So if your CFO is asking, why do you want to hire more people? You can provide a report and show them the trend of how this is so important and critical in your improvement for the workflows. So other example of trends is watching how assets are utilized and if there is an opportunity to reduce or right size the fleet of equipment, like your IV pumps. All of this leads to hard dollar savings, not only in capital expenditure, but also reduces operational costs, right? So if you are now maintaining a fleet of IV pumps that is smaller than what it was before, of course, your operational maintenance costs are going to go down from there on. All right, so we're almost towards the end of our webinar. I know there was a lot of information. It could get overwhelming, and your question is, this is where do I start? I mean, where do I begin? So we've simplified that process for you. So if you go on our website, Kontakt.io, there are some simple questions you can answer on a form. Once you fill those questions, you can have a quick chat with one of the Kontakt.io subject matter experts just to explain kind of what you're trying to do, what are the use case you want to solve. Once we agree upon a solution, we will ship everything to you in a box, and it's a rapid plug and play install, right? So you just plug some portal lights on the wall, on the wall. Install a portal beam in the ceiling. The tags come in the box with you, and we can get your demo use case running in less than 30 minutes using our cloud-based applications. Um, what next, right? So once you have your demo up and running, looks good. What else can we do? How can we scale? So I would ask us very few basic questions like, can your existing Wi-Fi support BLE-based IoT? Do you have the right components? Talk to your network engineers to figure out if that's the case. Define the problem statement, right? What is the scope and benefit that you want to achieve within your department, and who else can achieve the same benefit from other departments? You can evaluate the value using our online ROI calculators. So if you go on our website, there is a whole page of how to calculate ROI. It calculates the investment you would need based on the number of patient beds, number of assets, and it'll tell you that you will have a return within 5 months to 7 months, right? And keep scalability in mind. So it's easy to get very narrowly focused on the problem at hand, but think about the next 2 to 3 use cases that you would want to drive using this system, and talk to us. I mean, you may be closer to implementing RTLS than you know it. Just talk to us. We'll ask you a few questions, especially if you have the right kind of Wi-Fi support. Then you may be closer to achieving RTLS deployment than you know it, right? So it'll be very quick and with very little heavy lifting from your end. So with that, I end the webinar and hand it back to Aneda. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kapil. Thank you for this insightful presentation. For those who are starting or thinking about starting their IoT journey and have questions to Kapil or our team, please feel free to reach out to us at hello@kontakt.io. Remember, contact is spelled with K. Or like Kapil just mentioned, go to our website, Kontakt.io/healthcare. There are more information how to get started your healthcare IoT journey. Once again, we appreciate your time. Be sure to check also our website. We do monthly live webinars, so we'd love to have you there as well. And yes, we'll see you next time. Thank you for your time.